All right. So my name is Coach Rich Hargitt. So grateful for the opportunity that Hudl Blitz is bringing all of these webinars to people live tonight and giving everybody a chance to talk some football and learn some football. I have provided my contact information for any coaches out there that are watching this. You can see my cell phone number over there, 704-941-4893. So if you want to reach out after this webinar, if you have questions, if you'd like to chat, by all means, hit me up. I look forward to speaking with you. Also, if you'd like to discuss surface to air system or joining our fraternity of coaches, you can email at info@surfaceair-system.com or hit me up directly at coachhargitt@gmail.com. You can also see we have two Twitter accounts there, one that at S2A System or at Coach Hargitt is my personal account. So again, wanted to thank you guys all for being here. Really excited to get here and talk ball with you. So don't want to spend a lot of time talking about what we did or accolades or anything like that. Want to get right to talking ball and give you guys as much bang for your buck as you can possibly get in this time frame. So what we're going to talk about today is something that we call All 11. And we've been doing this for probably about 8 or 9 years. I really started seeing coaches talking about it on the defensive side of the ball, where they talk about being able to diversify or hybridize what a kid on the field is capable of doing. And so it never really dawned on me that we were doing it on the offensive side of the ball, but we actually have been for a long time. And so I thought it would be a really cool topic for us to talk about. Here's what it means. The definition is very simple. It's the ability of an offense or a defense, because we actually do it on both sides of the ball, to change surfaces. If you remember a surface to air system, that's a term you hear quite often. It's not just changing the formation or the personnel grouping, but actually changing the surface, changing the way the offense presents itself to the defense, and the personnel grouping appearances without altering the actual personnel on the field at any given time. So in other words, it means to substitute with a purpose. And what I tell people is you're essentially trying to hide formations and personnel groupings in plain sight. What you're really trying to do is you're trying to go out and you're trying to line up in one thing, but deceive the defense that you're in something else. Okay. And I've got a plethora of film to show you on that. A lot of different stuff from this past season. We were really fortunate to be able to play 13 games in the middle of a pandemic, made it all the way to the state championship game. Was a real blessing for us to be able to be a part of all those things. And I've got quite a few clips, as I said, to show you, but I think it would probably make a little bit more sense to you if I get on a drawing tool here real quick. So that's what we're going to do now. Actually going to switch over to a drawing tool here, and I'm going to show you guys a little bit kind of what I'm talking about. So we base out of a 11P system, okay, and so hopefully everybody can see my screen okay there, can see what I'm drawing. So this is a pretty standard, pretty simple 11P structure. Okay. Now, one of the things we'll do to hide formations in plain sight, let's say you're just a base nickel team, and you're going to give me the standard over front, nothing real complicated here. Okay. Just that kind of structure right there. The defense understands by looking at the offense what they're getting. They know what they're seeing. Okay, so it's really hard to hide unless you're going to put a lot of time and energy into shifts and motions. And even if you did those things, to me, you still have to run personnel groups on the field. And I have a coach who his only job is to basically sit around here at Emmett High School and look at who you're sending on the field. As a head coach, I feel like that's one of my responsibilities, is to make sure that I've got a coach that can tell me, hey, this kid, 37, comes on the field, they're going from 21 to 11 to 12 and so on and so forth. So instead of wasting all that time and energy, I'm just going to show you the formation right out of the gate. I'm going to say, hey, we're an 11P. There it is, 11 personnel, no muss, no fuss, very, very easy. There's certain plays the offense cannot run when they're in 11P with an attached tight end. Okay. And so what you do is you're hiding those personnel groupings because you're cross-training different kids. One of the things I love to run is I love to run Y off the ball split zone, or I love to run why on the ball power, okay, those sorts of things. What you're able to do when you cross-train kids is you're able to run a plethora of different plays and things that the defense shouldn't be able to understand. For instance, to this side of the ball is a huge power alert over here to the tight end side. Okay, we run power out of pro gun all the time. So instead, we're going to come back and we're going to run A gap power. Okay, but instead we're going to run it over here. We're going to kick out the fullback with the fullback, the tailback, and we're going to run weak side power and put an RPO on it. Okay, so what we're really in is we're in O2P. We're in 0 back, 2 tight end instead of 11P, 1 back, 1 tight end. We're hiding that personnel grouping in plain sight. Okay, and that's a very, very simple, pretty easy to understand structure. Let me give you another one. Okay, I just want to make sure I make my point here. If I'm out on the field, this H-back is a huge asset because I can line up like this and be an 11P, or I can have that guy cross-train to play a fullback, and the very next play, I can say, okay, instead of 11P, I want you to line up right here, and we're going to line up in 21P. I've cross-trained that H-back to do both so that he's a truly multi-dimensional guy. And then what that allows me to do is I can create a whole new series of problems for that defense. If that's how you're lined up, okay, I've now got the opportunity to come back. Let me change color here so it's nice and easy for you. I've now got the ability to come back and do this, arc this guy, kick out the end, and pull A-gap power around to the mic, okay? Now I'm back into another situation where I've basically hidden another tight end. And now I can run whatever RPO off of that I want, okay? The other thing it allows me to do is I look like I'm in a fullback structure with this guy, but he's actually a slot receiver. So I can easily fake that, bring that guy across, chip, run a flat route, run a deep over, run a fade, run a post, and get into a bootleg or naked type concept with the defense because I've got guys that are cross-trained. My tight end is a great example. He can play wide receiver. He can play split end. He can play slot. He can play tight end. He can play fullback. He can play wingback. I keep cross-training these guys so that, and it's really the H, the Y, and the T. They can all do multiple jobs on the field. And by doing that, I can create any number of personnel groupings. I'll line up in 01, 02, 10, 11, 12, 21, 32. I can line up in a whole bunch of different personnel groupings, but I'm hiding them in plain sight, meaning you don't know because you didn't see a new kid come on the field, okay? You saw me in the slide there at the beginning talk about substituting with a purpose. This guy right here, for me, is 5'9" and 165 pounds. He can get in the way. He can position block, angle block. He can also slip out in the flat and be a legitimate passing threat. I can spread him back out. If I want to bring a real thumper in the game, a true fullback, I'll sub a fullback into the game, and I'll run true 21P with a fullback. But if I'm only going to do that one play or two plays on a drive, there's no point. I'll sub a guy in. You'll sub a guy in. We'll even up numbers. It won't work. I'll have to sub another guy in. If I'm only going to do it once or twice, sub a guy in that is a multi-use tool. We're looking for Swiss Army knives on the football team. That's what we're trying to do, is cross-train as many people as possible. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that makes, to a degree, a little bit of sense. I'm going to go ahead and switch back over now. We're going to jump back onto the film here. We're going to cue this up. And again, this is film from throughout our season. We'll get this into a full screen here for you. There we go. So you're really seeing clips from throughout the season. Again, we had 13 different games. This is actually our last game. This is the state championship on Thanksgiving weekend. This is a great example of us hiding a personnel grouping in plain sight. I only have 2 wide receivers on the field, okay? But really, I have 4. Okay, there's an attached tight end up at the top. He's cross-trained as a receiver. He can do all sorts of receiver things. Okay, the kid that's at fullback, you can see, is not a big dude. That's not a true fullback. He's an athletic kid. He's a running back. Okay, he's actually my backup running back. I have both my running backs on the field at the same time. The reason why, that kid's tough. He can pass pro. He can get in somebody's way. He can split zone. He can tight end insert. He can leak out in the flat and catch a ball. He's a very athletic kid. So if we let this play, you'll see here, this is early in the state championship game. We're going to take a shot here. We're just going to take a vertical shot. We just turned them over. We're going to go play action, and we're going to take a deep vertical shot down the field. We connect, puts us first and goal in the 1, and we score on the next play and take the lead. Well, why are we able to do that? Because we don't have a big, hulking, unathletic fullback on the field. We've got an athletic kid that can pass pro and buy me a little time, and I didn't have to change personnel. So what am I able to do? I knew that this opponent, when they saw 21P, okay, which is what they're seeing here, they're seeing 2 backs, 1 tight end, they play cover 0. And I knew that if I lined up in 21P, they would auto check and give me a vertical shot with one of my 2 wide receivers. And so what I've done is I've manufactured a 37-yard gain right there, because I've lined up in something that I know through film study, I can predict how they will react, but I didn't sub new personnel on. If I'd have subbed the fullback in the game, they'd have subbed people, and maybe they wouldn't have played cover 0. Maybe their coach would have been onto it, and he would have said, no, screw that. I'm gonna stay with a zone coverage. I wanted man coverage. I want to coach against the 16-year-old, not the 55-year-old defensive coordinator. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to manufacture that situation. So hopefully that's a good clip. The next one, same thing. I've really got 3 running backs on the field. Okay, the kid going in motion and the 2 kind of wing back, fullback type kids that are set there, they're all running backs. Okay, I'm really in like, I don't know, 30P. You know, I'm in a situation where I've got super athletic people that can handle the ball, but it looks like I have 3 tight ends in the game. It looks like I'm in 13P, but I'm really in like 30P. Okay, so I'm hiding personnel groupings in plain sight, and you can see there the defense is a little bit distorted. Okay, they're not quite sure how to react to it. They're playing a little softer. Okay, they're a heavy blitz-based football team. They love to pin their ears back and bring pressure. Well, in this situation, they can't pin them back and they can't bring it, okay? Because I've got motion, I've got tight ends, I've gotten them out of that mojo, okay? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to dictate to the defense what they line up in without me having to change who I'm sending on the field. All these kids were just on the field for the previous 2 plays. I didn't have to sub people in. Okay, we keep letting it go. Now you're seeing, again, what would be perceived as 21P. But these 2 running backs basically both play wide receiver for us. And so what you've got here is, as the ball snap, we'll just let this play. As the ball snap, you can see I've got some pretty athletic people in space, and there's a play action pass. Okay, my fullback doesn't have great hands. He can't slip out in the flat and catch a 5-yard pass with any sort of consistency. He's a hammer, and he can drop the hammer on power, counter, that sort of stuff. But to have him chip, get out in the flat, be aware, catch the ball, and get me 5 yards, he's just not that guy. So instead, I keep an athlete on the field that's a little bit more versatile that can do that sort of thing. That's a pretty good example using a talented guy out there. All right, here we got, again, I'm showing them 21P, but I've got a pretty athletic kid set at fullback, same kind of thing. This in the championship game, this was kind of our jam. This is what we were trying to utilize these guys for, is to get them out there and throw the ball. We wanted to throw the ball out of 2-back sets. We figured that was our best chance to exploit their man coverage scenario. They don't have any safeties deep, so we'll let this one play. Cameraman misses the end of this, but this is about a 30-yard gain right there down the sideline. Okay, just simple air raid passing concepts, nothing super complicated, just a little 3-level flood. But it's the fact that we manufactured it out of the personnel grouping that gives us the advantage of throwing the football here. If I line up in 2x2, these guys are onto it. They know how to defeat 2x2. We felt they had a small vulnerability in 21P. So we just hid that out there. Same thing. We just scored a touchdown. We're going for 2. Okay, 21P. They're in cover 0. Okay, and so you see this is a great opportunity. Give them a little play fake. Okay, we let it play out here. A little play fake the zone, boot off of it. Little rub route, bang, there's the guy they missed. They missed the fullback in the flat. Again, that's not a big hulking fullback. That's an athletic kid that can get out in space and catch the football. So that's like stealing 2 points, okay? Just makes things a little bit easier. All right, so we're going to kind of work back now in film kind of through the season. This is kind of from the middle of the year. We wanted to be able to get into 20 personnel, 2 backs, 0 tight ends. But what I did not want to do is I did not want to check a second back into the game. These guys have got some experienced coaches, some veterans. We were worried that if we did that, they would come in and they would sub new personnel on the field. And I wanted to coach against their existing personnel. And so I simply cross-trained my wide receiver, my Z receiver, to play as a running back. And I taught him some plays that week I wanted him to run. So he's actually the kid that's faking the power read right there. All right. I want my quarterback to keep the ball because they're definitely afraid of a receiver getting the ball on the edge. And so I've really killed 2 birds with 1 stone. I've gotten that receiver involved in the run game. I've not had to spend a lot of time cross-training him. I only taught him a couple plays. And I didn't have to change personnel, but this team has to adjust to 20P. And what's even more difficult for them is now that they give up a big gain on this, the next week's opponent is going to see 20P come into the frame. They're going to see a big run for a first down, and they're going to have to defend it. I think it puts a tremendous strain on a defense to be prepared for everything we can potentially run in the course of a game when we continuously put more and more and more stuff on film. I think it makes us look way more multidimensional than we really are, and we're not burning a lot of practice time while you are. I think that's a huge advantage. These next couple clips, we'll just let these play through once. They're all kind of standard. I don't really have a tight end in the game there. So I've gone tackle over. I put a wide receiver on the nub side in place of the tackle. And I've got my wide receivers up there doing tight endy type things. I've got them blocking down and cracking and base blocking and doing those sorts of things. So we'll let the next couple clips play. They're all kind of in a series here. I think these are just right in a row. We drive down and score on this drive. So they're all kind of in that same vein. We found something working. There's a little tailback counter play. Again, the guard's doing the heavy lifting. The fullback tight end type kid, he's just folding up, getting in the way. We're not asking him to do, any flat back blocks. He's not going to knock anybody out. Okay. But again, this is a personnel grouping we can jump into and cause you a lot of problems. You see the kid over there at kind of at the left tackle spot, not a big kid. So we're using the personnel we've got on the field. You've seen power, you've seen ISO, you've seen counter, you've seen toss. Again, this is something that if you play us the very next week, you've really got to contend with what looks like a pretty diversified run game menu. All right, so we'll just let this play again. I'll let play through, I should say. I think y'all kind of get the gist of those. Here's another one. We'll just let this play. Just moving that fullback around a little bit. Play this one. There's just a little wide zone. All right, we'll go to the next one. I think you're kind of getting the point. Just base plays. Just base plays you already run. Okay, nothing too crazy. Here we are back in a true under center 21P. Again, I've had my big fullback in the game. I want to throw the ball to the fullback in this game. Just a cheap, easy little 5-yard flat pass. Okay, my fullback can't catch that. Okay, and so if I bring him in the game, I'm basically playing with 10 people because he's not a real threat to carry the ball. He's not a real threat to catch the ball. By keeping an athletic, multi-use tool, so to speak, kid on the field, I'm making it a little harder for you. This is from the quarterfinals, the 4A quarterfinal game. You can see there, that little fullback, again, not a thumper, but he can get in somebody's way and we can run ISO. Now you have to respect that he's going to run block. You've seen him catch 2 or 3 passes in the flat, on these couple previous clips. Now you're seeing him run block downhill. So you're seeing him do some different things and get involved in the run aspect of it as well. Still in the quarterfinals, we are using now our tailbacks as tight ends. So I'm using what we call in S2 a travel motion by the receiver, bringing him around to distort the defense. I don't want to bring 3 tight ends in the game. If I bring 3 tight ends in the game, this defense is going to go heavy on me. They're going to put a 5-2 down there. They're going to bring in, a bigger nickel. So instead, I'm going to pull a guard and use both running backs who are very athletic, very quick twitch kids. I'm going to fold them up and through as if they're 2 pulling fullbacks or tight ends and just create a moving wall for my quarterback to really gut this defense up the middle. I think that's a really creative way to essentially be in 0-3 personnel, 0 back, 3 tight end. Really, those tailbacks have been cross-trained to do what tight ends do, okay? But there's no way that defensive coordinator is like, oh, that's 0-3P. At best, he's saying that's 21P. And so I'm hiding a personnel grouping in plain sight. This is from the next week. This is in the 4A semifinal game. Same thing. You can see a lot of these are the same kids. You just saw that kid that's going in motion running split back 20 personnel power read a couple clips ago in week 6. Now he's out there in motion running jet sweep fakes. Okay, and we'll let this one play. It's giving the defense a lot of different stuff to think about that's not super easy. It's not a super easy concept for them to process that out. There's a little quarterback fold play. So you can see, again, I'm using these tailbacks, and they're really both tailbacks. I'm folding both of those guys in there and taking out potential tacklers with them. So I'm almost in an 0-4P situation there. I'm using those fullbacks to really get up in there and create tight end type blocks for me. All right, we'll let this one play. We're just flexing the formation out. Basically same formation you just saw, except the 1 tight end on the field. I just flex him out so somebody has to cover it. And again, just a cheap little way to go grab 5, 6, 7 rushing yards right there. We needed 5, and it helps us get a first down. It's a really good opponent we're playing. Okay, if you just come out and line up in 10 and 11P and say, let's go, we're better than you, the odds are we're not better than them, and we lose. And so we're trying to just make things a little bit harder to recognize. That's really the big point of this whole lecture is, and we can go to the next one. The whole big point of the lecture is for you to understand you can be very diversified in how you present your offense to a defense without breaking the bank. You can make yourself look pretty darn diversified if you're willing to just add a little bit of window dressing here and there to some of the things you're doing. Okay, again, I've got 2 tight ends in the game. I've got 2 running backs in the game. So it looks like 22P, 2 back, 2 tight end. It's really going to present itself as 0-4P because none of those kids are going to carry the ball except the sweeping motion man and the quarterback. In this case, it's a dead fake. We're just faking the fly sweep guy to distort the defense, and we're running the quarterback. Now, you might look at that clip and say, well, coach, that's not a very impressive clip. Your quarterback got 4 yards rushing. Well, the team we're playing, this is the semifinals. The team we're playing has 3 Division I signees, and I've got none. So I'll take 4 yards any way I can get them. And I've got to be very, very creative. We beat this team mainly because we made it hard for them to understand where the ball was going, what we were doing, how we were doing it to them. And so we tried to make things look a little bit different, make it look a little bit weird to them so they couldn't fit it quite as easily. And I think we had a lot of success with that. All right, we can go to the next one. All right, same kind of theory here. We've got, this is like the very next play. Same kids on the field. Okay, I'm running power. Okay, power to a tight end, but I'm really pulling 2 more tight ends and leading them through the gap. So you're going to get a pulling guard and 2 pulling running backs all leading up in the hole. Look at all those blue jerseys hitting all those white jerseys. Then the quarterback just cuts back. We're essentially almost playing double wing football. It's like pulling half the offensive line and swinging, gating it around into the other half of the offensive line. These are not things you would think of in a traditional spread offense. but they're things that we're doing, again, to try to be a curveball to the people we play. Now, I think it's important you understand, we're also going to run 10P and 11P and 3x2, and we're going to run the I, and we're going to do all those other things. These are just clips that we're pulling out throughout the season to kind of give you a taste test, but we're still doing all the other stuff. We're throwing RPOs. We're throwing quick game. We're sprinting out. We're naked. We're boot. We're power. We're doing a lot of stuff, but it's not hard for our kids to understand it. I think that's a cool clip because now you're seeing kind of how the RPOs work into this. Very simple RPO. Everybody runs. Get yourself into a trips bubble scenario. Well, if you look, I'm actually unbalanced. I have the tight end down here in line to the bottom of the screen, and then I've got 2 eligible receivers. So I've already created a +1 gap. Then I have 2 backs to the right of the quarterback, so I'm in quints. I'm not even in quads, I'm in quints. I have 5 guys down here. I dive the ball. Somebody has to go take the pitch man, okay? And when they take the pitch man, nobody takes quarterback. And the quarterback just folds it and follows like any old option play. And again, there you go. There's another first down I didn't have to earn. I manufactured it. And you can see there, I'm on the 45-yard line in a game that ends up finishing 27-22. We win it, very close football game. 10 yards when you're on that side of the field is a big dadgum deal. Okay, so you have to manufacture those sometimes against a good team any way you can. And you can see there, I'm really getting a lot of distortion now. You got a free safety who's 10 yards off the ball. He's trying to process. He's trying to process where the ball's going. Where's it fitting? What's the motion doing to me? What kind of stuff are they trying to do? How are they playing that game with me? Okay, and so we're trying to make ourselves a real moving target. You know, and I tell people using these formations and personnel groupings, it's like being a baseball player. If you throw 95 miles an hour, that's great. But if every pitch out of your hands is 95 miles an hour, pretty soon that batter can time it up. A curveball, a changeup, now you make him look like a fool. Okay, and that's what we're trying to do with this. If I just line up in 10P, which, by the way, 10 years ago, I lined up in 10P. I just played ball. We threw RPOs. We ran zone. Life was great. We were good. That dog doesn't hunt anymore. You got to change the narrative. You got to do a little bit more than that. So that's kind of some of these clips. And you can see there, we're in unbalanced a good bit. That's unbalanced 21 Pro is really what that amounts to. We have a very small call sheet with a very big surface change menu. And in surface to air, that's a lot of what we do. Okay. And if you'd like to get into that more, by all means, call me, email me, text me, whatever, and we can talk more about that. Okay. Again, you can see there, this is a power read play. This is actually the game winner. We win the game on this play. This sends us to the state championship game. Okay. But this is the first play of the 4th quarter. We've been manufacturing this for quite some time. Okay. And what we found was they overcommit to motion, especially if you're in 2-back. If you're in 2-back, they man and they try to travel with the motion and the box becomes lighter. Well, if you watch this play, as the kid travels through, look at that box become lighter. Then we catch him in blitz. And when the blitz man misses, you see him come running in from the backside B gap. When the blitzer misses, and I think it was pre-canned, they're going to travel with motion and blitz off the backside. When that guy misses, we go to the state championship game and not them. It's that simple, okay? We caught them in their roll the dice, and we knew they would pressure us there. What we told the quarterback, because the first play of the 4th quarter, we just got a free timeout. The quarter just changed. I said, son, this is your shot. I said, if that thing moves across the formation and you get a pull read, I said, run like you're trying to get to this championship game. Run like hell, okay? And so we had saved that, and we got them in a bad way. And when that last kid misses, now it's just a run to the end zone, okay? And so that's what I mean by really distorting and putting the defense in a bind. That's really what we're trying to do there. All right, now this takes you all the way back to the first football game of the season. This is in August. So you can see there, there's a lot of different ways we've done this. Here, I want to run power, but I want to run power with a fullback and a tight end. But I don't want the defense to see I'm running it with a fullback and a tight end. So watch my tight end down block the C gap and watch my tailback kick out the D. Well, as the backside guard pulls around, they're out of people. And cut back on power is a devil, man. Okay, I learned that this offseason during COVID, hanging out with North Dakota State and a bunch of other people. Cut back on power is lethal If you push that ball front side and at the last minute stick your foot in the ground and go the other way, it's lethal, okay? And you can see there, stick it in the end zone. This team played for the 3A state championship game. Great, well-coached football team, okay? But we're just adding gaps. We're distorting gaps. If I'd line up with a fullback and a tailback in a game, they'd know how to defend that. They're smart guys, okay? We're trying to make it hard for them to understand. Okay, this is week 2. Same kind of thing. Okay, this time we're running buck sweep. All right, buck sweep hasn't changed in a million years, except now you can add a quarterback to it. And here we're really getting 2 pulling guards and 2 tight ends, because look at the tailback. The tailback is the extra puller. You see double wing teams do this all the time. They'll pull 2 guys, okay, and they'll kick out with the third. The fullback will kick out and they'll pull 2 guys from the backside. Well, now we're pulling guards. One's kicking out, one's leading. The second puller is the tailback. So I'm getting this big, massive off-tackle pulling power play, but I'm doing it out of 11P trips. So the defense doesn't think, well, this is 32 double wing power. They think this is 11P trips gun. And so I've made it look completely different to them than what they should be expecting. This one's from about halfway through the football season. Okay, so we come out, we look like 11P. It looks pretty simple. And then what we're doing is we're running weak side power. Okay, and so that tailback, you see, collects number 15 right there, and the quarterback cuts inside of him. I'm in really 21P. Okay, it looks like 11P, but I'm hiding it and it's 21P. The tailback is the fullback and the quarterback is the tailback. Now, several of these you have to be willing to run your quarterback, which we were. Our quarterback ran the daylights out of the ball. He rushed for the most yards from scrimmage of any quarterback in the state, won 4A state player of the year. He's a dual threat guy. And I think that's one of the things you have to do, especially as you get down here in the red zone. You have to be willing to run your quarterback. And people ask me, they're like, well, aren't you worried about him getting banged up or whatever? I said, well, if he doesn't run the ball, we don't win. And so if we want to win 10 games a year, we got to run the quarterback. That's just the way it is. We try to mold and build and create guys that are not afraid to run the ball. He also threw for almost 2,000 yards. Okay, so it's not like he's a statue back there. Okay, it's not like he's a fullback. So you're teaching guys a lot of different skill sets and making them better. Here, we're in 11P, but I've emptied the tailback out. He's down here in the slot, number 23. So now I'm in 01P. He's going to run an RPO, which means he's going to influence a backer or a safety out of the box. And now I'm going to run quarterback power. So I'm in 01P. And you can't really see it, but I think I actually traded the tight end into the flat late. So they're sitting there looking at 11P, and last second it becomes 01P. Okay, that's a 5A football team in Idaho. That's a huge school. They're twice my size. But we're able to line up and run the football at them. If I line up in the I and just telegraph, hey, I'm bringing a fullback in the game, we're going to run it right at you. Well, that ain't going to work. Okay, so I have to make it look a little different for us to be competitive. The dadgum official doesn't get in our way, we'll probably score. Okay, same game. Now I'm running quarterback counter, okay, because I know that inline tight end is kind of a red light going off to them that, hey, these guys might be running power. Look at the 2 linebackers that are out here over the tight end. They got 2 linebackers hanging out right over the tight end trying to make sure that they equate their numbers. So I'm going to pull and run counter the other way. Well, that tight end can't get over there because he's in line. So I'll use the tailback. The tailback is the wrapper. I got a trapper and a wrapper. The guard's the trapper. The sniffer should be the wrapper. Put him in line and have the tailback do it. Your numbers work great. The defense is out of position. You can see the will linebacker's trying to fall in late to the box. He'll get there, but he won't get there before we run for 6 yards. And that's what I was really proud of with a very small high school playing. We were the smallest 4A team in the state. We led the state of Idaho in rushing this year. And, we were able to line up and run the football effectively and get after people, which is what I think you have to do when you're an undersized school. I think you got to be able to line up and beat on people, or you're not going to be able to be competitive. And so there's a lot of ways to do that. Here's another one. I think this is the textbook definition of hiding a formation in plain sight. Okay. I'm going to swing the tailback. So I'm actually going to create a trip surface out here. So it's going to become 01P on the move because the tailback's not involved. Look at him run out there. Look at the Mike backer run to him. All the quarterback does is looks out there, and that Mike backer's running sideways now. He should be downhill with a vengeance, filling for that pulling guard. I got a 235-pound pulling guard coming around. That kid's going to catch a refrigerator. And instead of being able to come downhill and meet it, he's out of position. I distorted him out of position, and then our kids executed the play. I mean, it's all about your kids buying in. You know, if your kids, and I've got great kids in Emmett, okay? I don't have physical specimens, but they lift weights, they work hard, they learn the offense, and they're willing to diversify. They're willing to learn new things and put themselves in positions to be very, very successful. That's a quality, a natural resource that I do have in Emmett, is I have kids that will buy in and do the things I ask them to do, okay? And so that's an example of it. This is the game that we actually win to win the conference this past year. Cold, bitter cold this night. Wind blowing, had to be able to run the ball. Couldn't line up in the same set every play. So we're lining up in 0-1P with a sniffer this time. Okay, I got the tailback emptied out. He's up there at the top of the screen. Okay, we're in 4 wide. They're a man team, cover 3 team. So I've used up 5 DBs to cover those guys. And then if we let it play, you can see there, we're going to try to run the ball back to the weak side. Guard is the trapper. Fullback is the wrapper. Look at him jack up that kid. That little 170-pound sniffer tight end pulls through the A-gap and jacks up a kid right in the shoulder pads, holds him up while the quarterback runs through and gets a first down. Okay, that's power football from a structure that doesn't look very power-based. And so my sniffer tight end just took out their Mike Backer or Will Backer, whatever he is there. Now my quarterback's got a clean run lane into their secondary. It's a simple RPO. It's a tailback bubble. We can just flick it out there if we want. But instead, we've got numbers in the box and we can run it. Okay, here's a clip from the playoffs. We're in 11P, but I want an extra hat. So I'm going to let the tight end down block, and then I'm going to use the tailback to kick out the D gap and pull all the way around. I've put them in a -1 situation. The defense is one guy short. They don't have a guy to meet the quarterback in the hole. And so on 2nd and 7, they're going to give up 4 or 5 yards here and make it 3rd and manageable, 3rd and 2. And again, all that is by design. Now, 3 or 4 times in a row, I've handed it off to the tailback just traditionally, okay? But then I'm throwing a little curveball at them. Very similar to what you saw earlier, 0-1P, hiding it in plain sight. It's quarterback counter, GY counter, but the back is swinging to trips. This time, the quarterback doesn't like the number, so he flips it out there to the tailback. Let that guy go get you 4 or 5 yards. Okay, it's just a different way to hide those numbers, hide where people are fitting, and make it a little bit harder for the defense to just line up and play ball. All right, so I wanted to get this title slide back up there because I know we're down to only a few minutes left, and I just kind of wanted to talk to you briefly, kind of wrap all this stuff back up. What we're talking about is hiding formations and personnel groupings in plain sight, okay? We are trying to make the defense see something and then create a +1 advantage. That +1 could be in the passing game. It could be in the RPO game, the quarterback run game. It could be in the read game. Sometimes you can almost create a +2 if you're smart in how you do it. And I've had people say to me, well, this is really hard. You can't do it. It's too much work. I think it's actually a lot more work to have to change all those different personnel groupings on the field. Now, I will say, and I will admit, if I were to send you all 900 clips of my season and you looked at it, you'd see a lot of personnel group changes too. I had a fullback this year that was undoubtedly a guy. He's one of the few college, signees we had. He's going to an NAIA school, but he's a big kid, 6'4", 240, played outside linebacker, DN for us, really physical kid. Well, when I wanted to thump you with a real legit fullback, I brought him in the game, and he'd come downhill on you and hit you in the mouth. 3 plays later, he'd be out of the game. I didn't want to use him every snap because he was my best player on defense. But if I used him wisely and in correct situations, if it's 3rd and 1 and I'm on your 10-yard line, is that kid in the game? Well, hell yes, he's in the game. Okay, that's common sense. Your best player's got to be on the field if you want to win the game. but he doesn't need to be out there catching a flat route. He doesn't have to be out there kicking out on power every play. He doesn't have to be out there blocking down on buck sweep every play. Okay, he just doesn't have to be. I use him, I substitute with a purpose. I use him where I need to use him. Okay, and so kind of to recap, all 11 is the ability of an offense or defense to change surfaces and personnel group appearances without altering the personnel actually on the field at any given time. Okay, and we just talked about substituting with a little bit of common sense. And these are all things that we do in surface to air system. For those of you that are not aware, surface to air system, national consulting group. We base it off what I do here in Emmett, Idaho, but we've got clients in 47 states. We do all kinds of stuff, give people film, do webinars every weekend of the season, every month of the off season. I write books, I make DVDs, all kinds of stuff. And we would love you to look at it. We would love you to join it. All my personal information's there. If you're not interested in a subscription to S2A, but you just want to talk ball, follow me on Twitter, hit me up, send me a DM. My DMs should be open. Reach out in any way possible. Send me an email. I love to talk football. And I'm sitting here and my phone's going crazy with 3 minutes to go. There's people following me one after another on Twitter. Love it. Love talking ball. I post a lot of content. I post a lot of clips. Really excited. All my information's there on the screen. Please utilize it. Please reach out. I want to thank Hudl. I want to thank both Kaylee and Rachel for the incredibly professional job they've done getting us all set up for this tonight. All the advanced work, Hudl Football for getting us all set up, getting us taken care of, and bringing this stuff out to the masses and letting coaches learn. I think it's an incredible opportunity, and just so very, very grateful to have the opportunity to represent Emmett High School and represent surface to air system. Lots of good stuff coming. This whole season was magical for us to get to play 13 games in the middle of a pandemic. And I just got done writing a book about it called 1-8 the State. It'll be published in the next couple weeks out on Amazon. It's a whole narrative story about all the things we went through and all the things that happened trying to go through a pandemic, all from a football coach's perspective. So lots of great things going on. Really glad I had the opportunity to come sit and talk ball with you. Again, please reach out, and thank you very much for having us. Appreciate you guys, and have a great night.